Hi, welcome to this week's bonus clip. We recorded this as part of our wrap pod following the Leinster v Sharks match, which you'll find on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. This week I have Mark Jackson and Ciarán Duffy with me, and we want to have a look at Leinster's options at the 10 jersey for the coming season. Johnny Sexton's retirement was formally announced during the week and has, of course, left massive boots to fill. And although we have had to go into many big matches without him over the years, the fact that he's no longer involved at all brings a different dynamic to the squad, with several candidates at the province vying for a regular starting position. Going to yourself first, Mark, how do Leinster get the most out of the available options?
There's plenty of variable options, different players, each and all of them. There's no two the same. You've got the Byrne brothers, you got Sam Prendergast, you got Kieran Frawley, you got Charlie Tector. You know, for me, I would look for consistency in selection, and if that's what you want from your fly half, you want somebody that you can rely on. Ross Byrne will never let you down, but is he going to come good in the crunch games? Same with Harry. Harry's too inconsistent for me. I think Ross is too much of a facilitator. He's very lateral. He's quite deep. He's not a running threat. I think how we play, I think we have to have a running threat from 10. And for me, the man to start the games, and I'd like to see him play more 10, is Kieran Frawley. I think he's a little bit hidden at 15 at the moment. I don't know if that's because of his injury history. I think his injury history is interesting insofar as it's been unlucky as opposed to anything that's physically wrong with him. He's taken a couple of knocks to the head. One night I remember especially, he got a swinging elbow from somebody coming around a tackle. I think it's happened to him twice or three times. Same thing with his knee when he had his knee problem. I think he's a big player, stature wise for a 10, as all our 10s are. They're all quite tall. But I personally, I think Ross Byrne has had his time. I think he's delivered in the middling games. I just don't think when push comes to shove that the guys are good enough to take us to the next level. That's harsh, but it's a professional rugby. It's the top end of professional rugby. I personally would like to see Kieran Frawley given an extended run of 10, with Sam Prendergast backing him up. If that involves players leaving, I think this is as we said earlier on, and a lot of people agree that it's a transitional season. Just because it's a transitional season doesn't mean you shouldn't be winning. For me, fly half has to be a consistent selection. I think we chop and change too much. I think we chop and change too much when Johnny was out. And I know the RFU and the province has put such a high value on player safety and player rotation, but at the end of the day, if I was playing, I'd want my 10 being regular selection and somebody who I can trust. But I have the massive trust in Harry Byrne. I thought his kicking so far this year has been erratic at best. I think Frawley has a better running game. He's got a better passing game. And he's just as good a defender. I think Harry's a great defender. Ross is solid as rock, 6, 7 out of 10 every week, and he's not going to let you down in games like the game yesterday. But when we need to play and win, I'd personally go, if you're going on the American football sort of depth chart, for me personally, and this is my opinion, both as a fan and as a coach, I would have Frawley at 1, Prendergast at 2, and then, to be honest, it doesn't really matter after that. You can pick and choose guys if you like, but I would personally like to see Skerry's man put in a 10 for a few games in a row and see how he goes.
Yeah, because it's a fascinating debate, because when you look back at Leinster when Sexton was still there, obviously, like I said, we had to play a lot of games and a lot of big games as well without him. But the way we were dealing with that was we didn't just have a number 10, but we'd also have creative players in other positions as well. And you actually saw a bit of that against the Sharks as well, where Frawley was doing a lot of the Frawley was doing a lot of the creative work, and he was they were, and you had Jimmy O'Brien in there as well doing a lot of it. You'd have a lot of options around the positions, which is the totally opposite of Sexton. When Sexton's there, he's doing all of that. It's all going through him. But we were able to be those two different versions of Leinster. But now he's gone altogether. So I think it's more important that Leinster do have are able to make a decision, and they have all these options at the moment. 5, as you mentioned. I mean, that's a lot to choose to be able to choose from, and you do have to feel that something has to give at some point, and they have to make a decision on who their main number one is. What do you think, Ciarán?
Yeah, I feel like like you said there, Ross Byrne, he's grand and he'll keep you ticking over. And I imagine for Ireland, he'll be in the mix for Ireland for next year anyway, for the Six Nations Summer Tour and the November internationals. I don't think anyone else is quite at that level of consistency yet. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Ireland, because I think Jack Crowley's probably a better player at the moment, but he's also a very good impact sub who covers multiple positions. So there might be a case for saying you start Ross Byrne, keep things ticking over, and then you bring on Crowley to change the game. But that's a debate for another day. Like, Ross will be away a lot with Ireland, because I can't see him falling out of the Ireland squad, especially after Sexton's gone now. It'll be Jack Crowley, Ross Byrne, and someone else, not really sure who, and that's again another debate, who else wants the pecking order for Irish fly halves. But as for Leinster, I think he's grand and he'll keep you ticking over, but I think we saw in the European Cup final, I think that was a big blow to his confidence, and you could see against in the World Cup warm-ups, he was struggling for confidence. He's trying to do a little bit too much, trying to force things, trying to play a game that wasn't his game. I think he wasn't able to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And I will say we didn't lose that game entirely down to Ross Byrne. I mean, I thought James Lowe had a very poor game, probably amounting to just coming back from injury. I think, fully enough, if Sexton had been fit and Ross Byrne starts the week before against Munster, we could have won that game. Sexton starts the European Cup final, win the European Cup final, maybe win the URC the next week with Byrne starting. That's my fantasy booking for last season. That's my fantasy retcon for last season. But I think Ross Byrne, he's good for the most part of the season, and I think it's worth keeping him in the loop for Leinster. I wouldn't necessarily like to see him go, but I'd agree that Ciarán Frawley, Sam Prendergast, if I put it this way, if you're taking Ross Byrne, Harry Byrne, Ciarán Frawley, Sam Prendergast, Charlie Tector, and you're saying, okay, you can definitely keep 2 and one of the other provinces gets to pick 2 of the others, or one of the others, Ciarán Frawley, Sam Prendergast would be the ones I definitely want to pick. I feel like if you're starting Ross Byrne, or if you're starting Harry Byrne, Frawley has to play as a fullback or a centre if there's injuries. I think you need those other playmakers, whereas if you're starting Frawley, you don't need as many other outlets. So that's one positive for him. Sam Prendergast, look, he's still very young, and I've said it before, I'm against heralding young players as the messiah. I think that was a real problem with Joey Carbery. I think that's obviously Joey Carbery had bad luck with injury. I don't think it helped him at all that the IRFU said, right, he's the next great fly half in Irish rugby, and sent him to Munster, and then there was all this rivalry, and in the end, that hasn't really happened for him, and he didn't even make the World Cup this year. So, I don't think it helps putting that kind of expectation on anyone. But probably for me, it is a transitional season, so I think Ross Byrne, to keep things ticking over, it's probably worth playing him for 50 minutes for bigger games where we're favourites. It'll be interesting to see when we play La Rochelle in La Rochelle who starts there. I think that'll be very telling. I mean, again, is it probably worth starting Frawley and having Prendergast on the bench to keep things over? Because Ross Byrne, he's a good, solid fly half, but he's not going to change the game for you. I mean, if you're losing a game, I can't see Ross Byrne coming on to win you the game. But if you're winning a game, I can see Ross Byrne keeping things steady and helping you go on to win the game. So, it's interesting. I think it depends on other players' availability, because if we have lots of other playmakers available, I mean, games that Ringrose starts, James Lowe starts, Hugo Keenan starts, I wouldn't be as adverse to Ross Byrne starting. Harry Byrne, I agree with what Mark said. I feel like you'd expect a bit more from him at this stage. I mean, he's kind of feels like he's been given the chance. I mean, if you're looking at, like, at the end of the day, one of these fly halves is probably going to have to leave. It would be ideal for Irish rugby if they go to another province. I hope it's not overhyped and made a big deal out of, because I don't think that helps the other players. But if Harry Byrne or Charlie Tector are to leave, you probably think, right. I mean, I haven't seen enough of Charlie Tector, but we've seen enough of Harry Byrne to have had enough to be impressed by him, but not really have been impressed by him. So, I think it's kind of a case of Ross Byrne. He'll keep things ticking over, but Ciarán Frawley and Sam Prendergast are the two we really have to develop. I think be patient with Prendergast, and hopefully no one goes overboard if he has a bad game, which he will. He will have bad games, as will Jack Crowley for Ireland. But I'd agree. Frawley and Prendergast for me, they're the way of the future. And it might be a case of splitting game time, but I'd agree with another thing Mark said, that bit of consistency. You want to see someone get a run of games. I feel like Harry Burns had that run of games in the past, and he hasn't really done anything with it. I mean, he's, again, like Ross Byrne, he's been grand. He's kind of a not as good Ross Byrne. But which, as a younger brother, I would hate for someone to describe me as, but there you go. I feel like Prendergast, Frawley, they should be the project players, if you like, for this season. They should be the two to focus on. I think Ross Byrne will keep things ticking over, but I'd like to see Frawley and Prendergast get a lot of game time this season.
Yeah, because I mean, the one thing you don't want to do is have a rigid succession policy. So you could say, well, previously it was Sexton, then Ross Byrne, then maybe even Harry Byrne after him. So therefore, when Sexton goes, well, then obviously it has to be Ross and Harry, especially at a club like Leinster, who's got such a great academy coming through. You've got literally two Six Nations Grand Slam winning 10s coming into the system, and they need to be fed in somehow. Plus, there's Frawley as well, who's Mark says is a good candidate to be over all of them. So you have to be flexible. You can't just you can't just stick with what you were going with the previous season. You got to look at the talent that you have now, and you've got to be able to let some people go. I'd say you have a good point about La Rochelle. I'd say they'll be looking to maybe have a decision made by the Munster match, I'd say probably the end of November, and have a starting lineup there, injury permitting, have a starting lineup there that's going to be able to play those crucial couple of opening European matches. But it's definitely a lot to go. I mean, when you've got such five such good and quality options, and varying degrees, it's a fascinating situation to be in. So we'll just have to see what happens over the coming weeks.
I want to say, I think Andy Farrell has a big say in what's going to happen going forward as well, because he's definitely not as conservative as Joe Schmidt. Irish rugby has a history of being too conservative with young players, and I know we hyped up Joey Carberry or whatever, but here's an idea. Gordon Darcy started at 19, fell away a little bit, and came back. It was pretty much a solid pick, a more than a solid pick for a long time. Same with Brian O'Driscoll. We have a history through amateur rugby and the early days of professional where it does work out. And putting
Ty Byrne, Hugo Keenan.
Yes, Ty Byrne. Yeah, these guys come back. They're good enough, you're old enough, or you're old enough, you're good enough. It doesn't matter. For me, it doesn't matter about age. It's about getting that experience. And you can't get experience by getting 20 minutes every third game or every second game. There's got to be some harsh decisions made here. And if they get it wrong, they get it wrong. That's the beauty of sport. But to have 5 players, you can't play them all. You can probably only play 2 a week, maybe 3 if you have Frawley in as a 12-15 as well. But we got to stop messing Ciarán Frawley around. If he's been told you're in as 15, then fine, go for it, whatever. But you got to give the guy a chance to play in his best position. And let's not hide Sam Prendergast. I don't want him hidden. I want him exposed to the best level he can go at. You have to expose the players. The younger the younger they are, the more experience they get. It will stand them in good stead going forward. Let's not be conservative. Let's not rely on Ross, who's a fine professional rugby player, as is Harry Byrne. But we're talking about the top 5% of club rugby here, and we have to be ruthless. There has to be decisions, and we're victims of our own success from the academy system and having all these great players. Send them to other provinces if they need the experience. This is where the RFU need to step in as well a little bit. And okay, it didn't work out with Joey Carberry so far. Again, another fine rugby player, just had some unlucky injuries. let's not hide these guys. You got to expose them to top level rugby.
Once David Humphries doesn't come in and send them all to Ulster, I would be happy enough. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Right. Okay. So thanks, lads. That's it for our bonus clip this week. Many thanks again for tuning in. And as ever, be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe wherever you can, and follow us on all our social media channels.